Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Diary of a Lawyer. And today we're covering the events in Tunisia and the most recent ongoing deal between the country and the European Union regarding people trying to leave um, Africa, North Africa, to uh, go further via the Mediterranean. However, human rights activists and, in fact, many European parliamentarians have criticized the gross human rights violations and extreme racist nature of the Tunisian government, in particular the president, against people trying to cross to the Mediterranean or others in the country. And there are reports, for example, by wider media reports, including uh, Associated Press, that people were, in fact, and the New York Times today were left abandoned in the desert with no food or water, and some sadly, reportedly, may have lost their lives, and others are in very desperate conditions. Now, other human rights activists fear that the EU deal will make things even worse. Now, people in the Tunisian port or city of Sfax, who are aiming to make Europe their new home, are now sharing, according to the press, Associated Press, are now sharing the burden and the blame for what they characterize as escalating tensions, deeply tinged with racism. In the middle of fears of European leaders who are trying to stanch the numbers of people arriving at their shores. Now, the antagonism that exploded in recent weeks in Sfax between Tunisian and mainly black Sub-Saharan, Sub-Saharan migrants is widely seen as a turning point in how this North African nation deals with migration. Um, like I mentioned, European leaders are offering millions to Tunisia, uh, notwithstanding the abuses and activists' fear. A migration summit in Rome on Sunday, which is tomorrow, will pursue an anti-migrant vision that puts the onus on Africa to keep Africans out of Europe. Now, this, if that has to be seen in the context of um, the vices and the crimes against humanity that have been visited on Africa for centuries, such as the little matter, and I say that tongue in cheek, just being sarcastic, of, for example, slavery and colonialism, most of which involved gross human violations, and the lingering effects are seen into the instability, the political instabilities, the wars, the civil wars that and some of which obviously result in economic deprivations and instability that then lead people to leave their countries, many of whom I'm sure would not want to do. We see now the current situation in Sudan, in Mali, and in some respects, Ethiopia, Somalia, and so on and so forth. So it's really interesting to see that the continent that benefited from Africans is now asking the burden of the consequences of centuries of the gross injustices to be just be borne specifically only on the back of African countries. Now, there's a lot of criticism to go to the responsibility and agency of some specific African countries in how their countries are governed. Um, But I think to simply say that this is simply just a matter of just Africans um, is historical um, would be an historical injustice and would be um, factually, I think, inaccurate in that respect. So, in the current issue, it's a matter of fact the hands of migrants have drowned at sea. I'd say people, as opposed to migrants, have drowned at sea trying to reach Italy in fragile boats. But now they're waiting their chance to cross the Mediterranean while cowering in fear, and some beaten or passed by authorities to new destinations and others dumped in the desert. Now, Musa Khalid, for example, according to the Associated Press, reports a person called Musa Khalid from Congo who was among a group of migrants expelled from Tunisia and found by Libyan border guards huddling in a barren zone last weekend. He said that Tunisian officials took their belongings and money for transferring them out of the Tunisian port city of Sfax and dropping them off without food and water. As we tried to enter Tunisia again, they beat us badly. They broke my hand and hit my head, is quoted as saying by the Associated Press, near the Alsa border point in Libya, holding up a wrist wrapped in cloth. And he's quoted as saying that they're in the desert now for several days. So please. Now, human rights activists from North Africa, West Africa, and Europe met in Tunis this week and denounced the upcoming Rome meeting, predicting that it will amount to a battering of values for financial incentives to stave off migrants from European shores. Now, today, the Mediterranean's calling is no longer to be a bridge between two shores, but a wall separating all of Europe from all of the African continent, said the Tunisian Forum for Economic and Social Rights, which organized the Thursday meeting. Italy is among the countries trying to decrease the number of people arriving on its shores and stabilize Tunisia in its worst economic crisis in a generation. Now, thousands of people have arrived in Sfax this year, but there is no solid figure of how many are in the city or how many have left since the anti-migrant campaign started. Now, Tunisia has also become the main stepping stone in Italy, replacing Libya, where widespread abuse of migrants has been reported. According to the AP, of these 76,325 people arrivals in Italy so far this year until last Sunday, 44,151 took the sea route from Tunisia compared to 28,842 leaving from Libya, according to the UN High Commissioner for Refugees. And now that's pushing up numbers in the reception center in Italy's southernmost island of Lampedusa, with officials saying 2,500 people were at the site on Sunday, following the arrival of 266 overnight. Now, President Kais Saied, the Tunisian president, says that including authoritarian leader stoked racist reactions to the Tunisian leader is believed to have stoked, as quoted and reported widely, locally, internationally, have stoked racist reactions to migrants in February, saying that the Sub-Saharan Africans arriving in huge numbers are part of a plot to erase Tunisia's Islamic identity. He has since tried to walk back such pronouncements, denying racist views and saying the migrant issue must be treated at its roots. And that's one of the intent of the Rome conference, which will gather nearly 20 heads of state and governmental ministers from the Middle East to the Sahel and North Africa, along with European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen and a number of financial institutions. The one-day summit is part of the Italian Premier Giorgia Meloni's effort to position Italy at the center of issues impacting the Mediterranean. The conference aims to come up with concrete proposals to deal with migration numbers by addressing the root causes while combating migrant trafficking. We will also discuss energy policies, including ways to diversify energy sources and climate change. It's widely viewed by human rights advocates as a roadmap for what is to come. Now, the Rome Summit. Um, the Rome Summit is an important one because it comes a week after the Tunisian government signed a memorandum of understanding for a comprehensive strategic partnership in a meeting that included the Italian and EU leadership with financial incentives. Now, despite signing that deal, the Tunisian president has stressed in the past that Tunisia won't become Europe's border guard or serve as a land of resettlement. Human rights organizations say that bartering money for lives is betrayal of values. For some opponents, such deals are a new form of neocolonialism, according to the Associated Press news. They say that the EU risks not only perpetuating human rights abuses, but also emboldening repressive rulers who can brag about warmer relationship with European partners, whilst claiming credit for securing financial support for their failing economies. Now, with high hopes pushed back, people cower in fear of anti-migrant backlash that has forced many from their shelters in SFX onto buses to unknown paths. There are also reports that Tunisian security forces had dumped at least 500 migrants in the desert border zone with Libya earlier this month, but they were transferred July 10 to other regions of Tunisia, according to the Red Crescent. However, it is reported that some were forgotten because Libyan bodyguards said on June 16th that in the past few days they had found at least 6 men and women and children stranded under temperatures above 40 degrees centigrade, which is about 104 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's in addition to a group they came across that day when they rescued migrants who had been huddling the hotel several days near the Al Asa border point. The scene was filmed by the Associated Press. And the border guard is quoted as saying that these are people affected as a result of the cruelty and beating by Tunisian border guards, said commander of Alsa Desert Border Guard, Major Ayman Al-Qadiri, carefully adding that he was citing migrants' statements. And so I think it's also important to note that Libya is not in itself very innocent because there have been reports of similar mistreatment of people who are in their country trying to cross, of enslavement, of human rights violations, of robbery, and various serious crimes against the mainly Black Africans in those two countries. So it remains all eyes will be on the Rome summit tomorrow, and they'll be judged on how they respond to the humanity or the inhumanity that people are reportedly being subjected to in Tunisia and Libya, not to mention, sadly, the many, many, many who have lost their lives in the Mediterranean. And there we shall leave it. We shall keep monitoring developments on this issue of how, in particular, among others, people from Sub-Saharan Africa, who are mainly Black Africans, are being treated in Tunisia and Libya by the authorities. And there we shall leave it on this episode of the Diary of a Lawyer. Thanks for watching. We shall speak again.